The subject I would like to share with you today, I entitled this study, Ever Learning Christians. Did you ever had the experience that certain things you did a mistake, you did an error, and then you thought that you learned it, and then you did it again? I would like to share a story. It's a real, very sad story about a never learned lesson, about stubbornness of human nature, and about reckless of humans, and some, in a sense, even stupidity of human beings. In Peru, there is a mountain, Huascaran mountain, which is very beautiful mountain. It's the fourth in a height of all the mountains in South America and the highest mountain in Peru. But this beautiful mountain, having two peaks, is known as a mountain murderer. It killed already over 100,000 people. First recorded avalanche was in 18th century, twice, with a distance or break of only 5 years in between. Next avalanche was in 18th century, that's of recorded avalanches. In 1941, an avalanche killed over 6,000 people. But what's interesting, all this time, the old settlements were restored at the mountain with amazing persistence. The villages were swept away, and people were repopulating the very same area. January 10, 1962, a rapid rise in temperature caused another avalanche. The ice stream literally wiped off the Peruvian village of Ranrahirca. I don't know really how to pronounce it, Ranrahirca, killing over 4,000 people. So the whole village was just swept away. The disaster did not teach people. The village was rebuilt. They rebuilt the village. Immediately after that, since it was already the second half of the 20th century, the two American scientists came there. And they studied the mountain, they studied what causes such a frequent avalanches. And they realized that the solid rock, which is really solid piece of a mountain, has a very sharp top. But during the winters, over the years, it accumulates on its sides a lot of ice. And when there is a heavy rain, or it's a very warm summer, that's just slides off. What they did a research, and the researcher turned to the newspaper to warn the townspeople. However, the Peruvian authorities banned the Americans from disseminating information about a possible new catastrophe under the threat of imprisonment. So they had to leave the country. No advertisement was made, no announcement, no news was published in this regard. So they kept it silent. 8 years later, despite government bans, nature took its toll. On 31st May 1970, an earthquake in the ocean, far from that place, caused a substantial part of the north side of the mountain to collapse. The avalanche mass, ice, mud, and rocks was about half a mile wide and a mile long. It advanced about 11 miles down the hill with a speed from 175 to 210 miles per hour, bearing the towns of Yungay and Ranrahirca, that village which was restored. So that village was swapped again, and the Yungay, which what the scientists of America tried to warn them that people should not live there. Capital of the province, Yungay. was swept away. Approximately 500,000 people were left homeless. 150,000 were injured. The Husqvarna avalanche became the most monstrous disaster in all South America. So neither before until today was not natural calamity that would kill so many people at once. Was the lesson finally learned? On June 1st, 1970, Peru announced the 8-day mourning. So the country was in trauer. So they were, all the flags were down, president had a speech. The authorities which banned the warning, now they had to admit, yeah, we were wrong. A year later, at the foot of Husqvarna Mountain, Yungay grew up again. The rebuilt city is located now less than a mile away from the buried predecessor. Incredibly, but the reckless Peruvians once again settled their capital at the foot of the mountain. Why people don't learn their lessons? You look at this and, for example, those who, Brother Levi, you moved from Sacramento. You know that there is a valley there that they had to build a dam because when there's heavy raining, it floods all that area. And guess what? Contractors keep building houses. Why? Because people keep buying there. You look at these people, what's wrong with them? You know that another heavy rain next year and you will be flooded. But contractors keep building because people keep buying in the very same valley. And now I believe that valley is now already probably built up. Because before, when we left, they were building. But now, when last year we were there and we were driving from San Francisco from airport, new villages, there's just new areas which were just empty field before. Now it's all houses, just ready for another flooding. In 2 Timothy 3:7, our key verse, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. The illustration I brought you, and the reason I brought it, that the same scenario we are following in our Christian experience, or may follow in our Christian experience. Learning, failing, standing up again, and repeating the very same mistake. Why? Before we try to answer this question, I would like to take a couple examples from the Bible. For example, God's school for Abraham. You remember the Abraham? And we studied not long ago his life in the Sabbath school, deeply, in details. What was his problem? Lack of faith, and as a result, fear because of lack of faith and lying. When he was come near to enter into Egypt, he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife. And they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. Please, tell you are my sister. Don't tell you are my wife. And I will keep silence about that. He was afraid, and he expresses why he chose to go this way. He was afraid that he will be killed because she was a very beautiful woman, and the Egyptians, they will see her, they will kill me as a husband, and somebody of a rich people, even a king, will take you. And that's exactly what happened. You know the story, that she was taken, but God intervened and stopped the king to commit a sin. And the Pharaoh called Abraham and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? And why did you lie to me? Simple question. Why did you do so? Do you think he learned his lesson? Now Genesis chapter 20. And you know that each chapter in Genesis, it's a 10 or 15 years long. And Abraham journeyed from thence towards the south country, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarai his wife, She is my sister. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. A Gentile, a non-believer, rebukes a Christian. Why did you lie? But he was already rebuked once in the very same regard. Why did you say it's your sister? He didn't learn his lesson. He moves to another place and repeats the very same mistake. And again, a non-believer, a pagan person, rebukes a father of faith. Why? Nobody does that. I mean, he did not expect non-believers to do that. But you who believe the living God and worship the true God, thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done. Did he learn the lesson? No. His faith was still very weak. For a while it was stronger, but then it was shaken. And you know that Sarah brought a plan how to strengthen his faith, how to fulfill God's promise. You know, she brought him an Agar, another wife, and you know the story. But did Abraham finally learn his lesson? Finally, yes. But that was a hard lesson. Thou only son, whom thou lovest, the very promised one, now bring me as an offering. That was a test. But you know, Abraham reached a point of no return, in a sense. Because if he would fail that test, he would be rejected as King Saul was later rejected. You remember the story of Saul. Several tests God, he sent him, do that. Wait 7 days. He couldn't wait. He waited 7 days for 6.5 days, but he could not wait another couple hours. Then another, go and smite the Amalek. He did not fulfill. Go and do that. He did not listen. Then God says, I reject you. I found another man after my heart. If Abraham would not learn finally his lesson of faith, trusting God whatever it costs, he would be rejected. We would have a different father of faith. The mind should be educated to exercise faith rather than to cherish doubt, suspicion, and jealousy. We are too prone to regard obstacles as impossibilities, to have faith in the promises of God, to go forward by faith, pressing on without being governed by circumstances, is a lesson hard to learn. Yet it is a positive necessity that every child of God should learn this lesson. It's a necessity to learn this lesson, to go by faith. In Proverbs chapter 26, verse 11, we read, As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. In other words, how we can interpret this Bible verse or paraphrase it in more understandable manner? Stepping on the same rake. Again, and again, and again. I actually never stepped on a rake by accident. I did once on purpose because I wanted to experience how it's actually. I was holding my hands like this. Man, when it hurt my bone here, it was so painful. But I mean, I was maybe 10 years old, and it actually was a shovel, but very kind of curved shovel. So, and I was kind of playing like this with that shovel, and then I said, well, let me see what happened. And I put my hand like this, and boom, oh, wow, wow. I'll tell you another experience. We lived in Sacramento, and we bought our first house. Everything we had, we spent investing in a house because we need to remodel it, you put some tile, upgrade some carpet and painting. So we were really, really low in money. And I was cutting with a grinder some tile, and a piece of that fell in my eye. Now, to go to the doctor, I mean, it would be $300-400. And then I remembered when, a while before that, because my wife did not know any English, so her very first job she had in Sacramento, she was cleaning the eye vision center, doing some cleaning after they were closed the office. And I came one day and said, look, my wife did so much cleaning for you, would you please do this for free for me? They did. So they removed me. Did I learn the lesson? No. This spring, I was cutting tile again with the grinder. My dad comes and says, and I had these glasses. I says, no, this is not enough. You need to wear those really safety glasses which covers you all the way. I says, no, this is enough. And guess what? I got it in my eye. So I had to go to the vision center in downtown Roanoke. And no, my and I had to pay the bill now. It was about $300. Just very simple removing from the eye, because they had to put some drop, a weight, and a procedure on the microscope, so not to do more harm that I already did, and then some drops after. So it was about $300. I finally learned the lesson. So after that, when I take a grinder, before I start it, I make sure that I have those really safety glasses. But you see, why we have to pay to learn the lesson? We were talking about the Peruvians, how reckless people were rebuilding the very same village in the very same spot. They know that in maybe another 8 or 10 years, another avalanche will sweep the city again. Why they do so? Well, let me bring you something different. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 168. Many are still making a similar mistake. In selecting a home, they look more to the temporal advantages they may gain than to the moral and social influences that will surround themselves and their families. They choose a beautiful and fertile country or remove to some flourishing city in the hope of securing greater prosperity. But their children are surrounded by temptation, and too often they form associations that are unfavorable to development of piety and the formation of a right character. What's the problem with the Christians? When they choose a place to live, what they use as a guidance? Success. Where I can advantages, worldly advantages, where I can make more money. Forgetting about the negative influence, especially if we have small children. And do you remember how many times throughout the lessons lately there was an appeal to move out of the cities? Just the last lesson that I copied this paragraph from, it was about the second coming of Jesus. You remember? That was in the third quarter of 2017.
Last year.
Yeah, it was last year. It's a year ago. But ere long, there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to live them will not be able. A time will come when you see the avalanche coming. What can you do? An avalanche running down the hill from the mountain with a speed of 200 miles per hour. Can you run away from that? And the same warning we have in the spirit of prophecy. It's just an example. That people do not listen when they can listen. People do not learn their lesson. They want to live where it's pleasant for their worldly ambition. You know, okay, my relatives are here. I can have a better job here. I want to live here because it's better house or better street, or I don't know. What we use when we choose a place for living, what guidance? Because unless we listen to the warning of spirit of prophecy, the time will come that we will wish to live, but we won't be able. Example of Apostle Peter. You know, this man had always a problem. The opinion of majority was the most important above all for him, always. And of course that was caused by self-importance, by pride, by self-sufficiency. When some people approached him and says, "Will your master pay tribute?" What did Peter answer? "Oh yes, he will pay." If you read Desire of Ages in this regard, it says, Peter did not consult Jesus before he answered. But why he was in a rush to answer, "Yes, he will pay"? Because he was worrying about the reputation, what they will think if he would say no. He wanted to be in a very good relationship with everybody. Peter walks on water, looking toward Jesus. Now he turns back to see how deep are those jars on the floor of a boat of the remaining disciples, you know. How big are their eyes now, seeing me walking on the water. And the moment he turned his head, he started to sink. Now, Jesus, paraphrasing the story, says, "Peter, there is a rank. You're going to step on it." "Master, me, never." "Do you think I'm blind? I'm stupid? I'll never." And Jesus says, "Peter, you will step on this rank. Before the cock cries, 3 times you will step on the very same rank." "No, Master, I will not."
Maybe others. All.
Maybe others, yeah, not me. Jesus said, after you step and hit yourself, and after being converted, strengthen the brethren. Now Peter come to Galatians, and he is a very successful preacher, and now Paul joins him there, and two giants, 2 pillars of church working in the same town. The work was very successful. And now brothers from Jerusalem comes to see how they are doing here in Galatia. And Peter immediately takes a position that, no. You see, I have a distance between me and Gentiles. I don't even eat with them. Why did Peter behave like that? The opinion of our brothers from Jerusalem was for him more important than the reasoning. The very same problem, even he was converted, flesh remains the same. If you fell again into the same temptation, it doesn't mean that you're not converted. It just means that you have to fight harder. It is terribly hard struggle to give up your own will and your own way. But this lesson learned, you will find rest and peace. Pride, selfishness, and ambition must be overcome. Your will must be swallowed up in the will of Christ. Sons and Daughters of God, page 76. This is the hardest. Why people have hard time to learn their lessons? Because it's my way, the way I used to do. I like to eat it. I just enjoy eating it. I know it's not healthy. I heard it many times. But I still eat it. Why? I like it. And I have stomach pain and I have a blood pressure rise after that. But I still eat it because I like it. I was working with a couple, and that brother accepted all the Advent message. Specifically, he enjoyed the sanctuary message. He really loved our message about sanctuary because he once he was confronted with Jewish feast keepers, like Christians, but who still keeping the Jewish feasts, and said, "Look, when I listen to them, they're right. When I listen to you, you're right. Do you mind if I arrange a meeting so you discuss and I just listen? I want to hear, you discussing with them." Yeah, we had such a meeting. And they were talking for about 2 hours. In 20 minutes, we already were tired. I just briefly explained the way we understand the meaning of the sanctuary. And after that, he said, "I never, ever heard something more logic and consistent the way you explain the sanctuary message." But he had one problem, and he confessed to me. I like meat. And every time I eat meat, I suffer with a very high blood pressure and headache. For a month, I don't eat it, and then I eat it again. And I know I'm going to have a blood pressure, and I already have my pills, but I'm going to eat my meat. You know what these people do? When they step in a ring, and it hits them, what they do? They don't remove the ring. They put a helmet. Most stubborn are beaten the most. Proverbs 24:16. For a just, or another translation, a righteous man, fell 7 times and rises up again. Why fell so many times? Because we are dust. We are humans. And Jesus knows who we are. He knew Peter, he knew Abraham, he knew Samson. And he had to really hit Samson hard in his neck to save him. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. The more stubborn we remain, the more Lord has to take care of us and beat us and hit us. But you see the problem, what God is facing with his people. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4-6. O sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Why should ye be stricken any more? So God was punishing them and beating them. Says, for how long I'm going to spank you? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. From the sole of the foot even unto the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. So God had to beat them so many times that there was no good piece of a skin that was healthy. Bruises and wounds all over because of hitting, and yet still no repentance. And God says, what else I can do with you? We think, oh, that was Israel. They were stubborn, really stubborn. We are different. Brothers and sisters, we are the same. How many times God had to hit us and beat us to first of all to show us who we are. Sometimes He just lightly touches us for us or pushes us in certain circumstances or situation. By the way, those who have a bulletin, read this paragraph here. Not now, after. Keep listening to me. God is placing us in a situations, in a circumstances, to show us our character defects. And guess what? We don't learn. If I like something to eat, wherever I go, I will smell that food. Every time I go to Walmart, Kroger, or any place to eat out, I will smell it and I will crave for it. If my problem is forgiving someone, every brother and sister will be against me. Everybody will offend me. I will be offended on the market. I'll be offended by the cashier. I will be offended by pastor. I will be offended by wife. I will be offended by brothers and sisters. If I am a sensitive person, I'll be offended by everyone. That's pride. And guess what? Lord will take me again and place me in the very same situation like Abraham. In the very same danger, in the very same circumstances, until I learn the lesson. And the more proud I am, the more stubborn I am, the more difficult situations I have to go through. The sooner I learn the lesson, the sooner I will have rest and peace. You see the problem with the people? Revolt more and more. That's our problem. The present condition of many of the children of God, speaking of us today, is like that of a family of ungrateful and quarrelsome children. There is danger of even ministers being of that class who are ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Not in theory, it's not talking about understanding the doctrines. And even in that, many people having 30 years of being a member, experience as a Christian, there's things they don't understand. It's very simple. They don't know really what they believe. But my study today is not about that. Ever learning and never being able to learn the truth about myself. The school, what Christ is leading me, trying to polish my character defects. They do not practice what they learn. Why I'm beaten again and again? Why I have to suffer the very same circumstances again and again? Because I don't learn my lesson. They do not practice what they learn. They are hearers but not doers. These ministers need an experience in the truth. Even if we as pastors, what the messenger of God addressing to, she's talking beginning with all children of God and specifically even ministers. We need to start learning our lessons. It takes too long for us to learn our lessons. A complete surrender. Listen to this next statement. It's a very interesting statement. We should not pray for God to humble us. What? For when God takes hold of us, He will humble us in a way that we would not enjoy. I better learn the lesson of humbleness and meekness by myself. Because if God will see that, look, he was 20 years old, he was like that. Now he's 40, he's still like that. He is turning 50, soon to retire, and he's still like that. God sees no other choice but to beat me up. For me to realize my danger. And he has no other way to save my soul but to hit me. Spanking, with love, with care, with all his wisdom and providence. But to me, definitely it appears like a very hard strike. But in love and care, he wants to save my soul. And unless I learn my lesson the easy way, he has no choice but to go the hard way. But we must day by day humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God. We are to work out our own salvation with fear and with trembling, while it is God that works in us to will and to do of his own good pleasure. We are to cooperate with him while he works through us. Therefore, Apostle Paul, I want to conclude with this statement of Apostle Paul, 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Examine yourself, whether ye be in faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except ye be reprobates? Examine yourself. Brothers and sisters, unless I sit down and examine myself and figure out my character defects, analyze how did I act in that situation, what did I reply when I was provoked, when somebody started to yell at me, how was my reaction? Did I yell in response? If I did, was that a Christ spirit in me? No. Then let me work on that. We have to examine ourselves, because if I will not do, God will choose the harder way. But I will be ashamed. But if that's the only way to save my soul, he will do it. And I pray, God, please do it. I mean, whatever it costs, just save me. But for me, it will be easier to become smart in Christ, to look for wisdom, to analyze myself, and humble myself in cooperation with his divine power. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Of what? Of shame, of disaster, of catastrophe, of stupid things, of stupid words. Wisdom will protect you. And what is the wisdom, beginning of wisdom? Fear of God. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Amen.